Alright, so today we're going to be talking about removing decals. Decals, stickers, whatever you want to call them. At some point, you're going to run across having to remove these guys, whether it be something small like from a dealership type sticker off the tailgate or off the back of your car. Or if you're like me, you're in a professional atmosphere where you have to remove these for customers. Either way, it can be a hassle and it can be a pain in the butt. It's really one of those things that if you have to do it, you would really like to simplify it. And I'm going to go over 2 or 3 different ways of removing these things that can make it easier for you. So our first option is just a basic peel, remove, and clean. Now, you really have to evaluate what kind of decal you're removing. Now, if it's something that's, if it's just a basic type sticker or decal or vinyl, if it's not dry rotted, or as you can say, kind of broken down where it has a spidered look, a lot of the time you can just easily take you an edge and peel back, and then as we're going to kind of see here, hopefully you can kind of see this particular decal has had a lot of sun exposure, so it likes to break up into small pieces, which makes it extremely hard to remove. So if you have a heat gun, or in my case I'm using a butane torch, something that I bought from Lowe's or Home Depot or any kind of hardware store. I think some Walmarts carry them, Marvin's, depending on where you're at. The point with the direct heat is that it'll activate the adhesive layer that's up on your decal or vinyl, and it'll allow it to release a lot easier. So with my torch here, I'm going to isolate a certain area for roughly about 10 seconds, no more. I'm going to count pretty fast, and that will make this vinyl come off a little bit easier. But as a heads up, this is pretty bad, so it may not come off real easy, and that'll move us into the next thing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So isolated real close, pretty fast. So again, it just kind of activates the adhesive layer and it allows it to come off glue-free. Not every vinyl is the same, so you can't expect the same results. So for that instance, it came off pretty smooth. It cuts out, if you heat the vinyl to an appropriate temperature, a lot of times the glue will come off. Sometimes you're stuck with little tidbits here and there. No big deal. And I'm not sure if you can tell from the camera or not, but there is kind of an outline where dirt and debris is kind of built up around the edges. Sometimes just basic alcohol will get rid of this. In other cases where if the paint's really bad, you'll kind of have a ghosting image, or if just in the right light, you'll see the image of the right there. And there are some chemicals like Ghost Off that you can buy. Usually you're going to spend anywhere in upwards of $100 for a gallon or a liter, or what have you. And it does help if you use it right, and not all situations are the same where you would be able to get rid of that. You might have to cut and buff it, or maybe just a light sanding might get rid of it. But either way, the next instance, so I do have a little bit of glue here. I use a pretty heavy solvent. Maybe you're familiar with it, maybe you're not. It's called xylene. I picked this up from Home Depot or Lowe's. It's about $18 for a gallon where I'm at. And if you've never used this chemical before, it does have a strong odor. You do want to keep it in a well ventilated area, storage container, whatever you have. So you also be aware that it can dry your skin out. So if you want to try to use some really heavy duty gloves, you can. If you have kind of an open cut or a wound like I do, I stress that you would need to use that, but I've been using it long enough that it doesn't quite bother me. That's not an excuse, but you definitely still want to try to use those. So I just kind of saturate my rag a little bit, and I just kind of slowly, in a kind of circular motion, I just kind of rub this away, and some of that dirt and debris is going away, as you can probably tell from the camera lens. Then you can just kind of rub your finger over it if you feel kind of a roughed area, and you probably still have some glue there, but this does really well for breaking it down. Now you can also use goof off, or there's also a 3M adhesive remover. A lot of times you can pick these up from like automotive paint stores. It's just a general purpose adhesive cleaner. Just a little bit goes a long ways. This also contains xylene in it. It's more of a concentrated amount, so it works better for me in bulk, especially if I'm removing a lot of glue if I have to. And this is just another alternative if you don't want to go with the big boy stuff. So the next thing that I would have to use in lieu of a torch, let's say for instance, this right here is really bad. Heat is going to do nothing for this red here because it's already kind of oxidized. It's turning white in real areas. It's real brittle around the edges where it's just wearing down. So on that, I would not use heat. I just wouldn't. I would use an eraser wheel. And the technical name for this tool is called the MBX Zapper. This tool is fairly expensive. The wheels can typically be found at most automotive paint stores. They run anywhere from $15 to $30. But the tool itself is $110. You can plug it up to any outlet. It's close to $450 for the tool itself. You might be able to find it cheaper. I can tell you that's what I paid for it probably roughly 3 or 4 years ago. It's a great tool. It works really well. Now there are eraser wheels that you can get from like Advanced Auto or an auto parts store where you could just attach it to your drill, which work just equally as well, and you don't have to spend a professional amount of money on a tool. But this has served me very well. I've definitely got my money back as far as its use. I use it all the time. And just for an instance, it is really loud, so it'll probably drown out the noise a little bit. But how I like to use this is very little pressure. It doesn't take much to get any of this off. If you bear down on it too hard, these wheels tend to gum up and they'll get really, the area will get saturated with almost the eraser part, and you really don't want that. What you really want is just a fine build-up that's easy to clean up. So we'll try this just as a quick for instance. So that quite honestly made very quick work of the removal that I have here. Um, it does take a little bit more work for these other decals here, just because they're larger. These were really small in this instance. But light pressure, you don't want to put too much pressure, especially when you're using an eraser wheel, because if you're not familiar with your paint job that you're working on, this one's in fairly good condition. No real dust coming off or anything like that. The clear coat's intact. But if you have kind of a shoddy paint job, you might want to think about, well, an eraser wheel might not be an option for me because the paint can come off with it. You might burn the paint with too much pressure, so you just have to be kind of aware. If you're working just on like a small like dealership type decal that's on the tailgate or something, you're probably not going to have that big of a problem, especially if it's new. Now if it's older, you kind of want to check and make sure you don't have clear coat that's been painted over it from a body shop, or something stupid like that. So if you have any questions, comment below. You can also message us, and I hope that this video was helpful. So if it was, please subscribe, hit a like again, and I appreciate it, guys. Thanks.